Well,
So here's the news this morning. In separate private conversations this past summer, President Trump urged members of the Senate Intelligence Committee to end their probe into Russian interference in the 2016 election.
oh boy.
That is what the committee's Republican...
Wait, hold on. I'm confused. So John Heilemann, I know that he told the FBI, right? I think we'd heard that he was pressuring them to stop it, and
that caused some controversy.
And I understand I'm confused though. So he did this not only to Comey and then bragged about ending it to Lester Holt and the Russians, and Sarah Huckabee Sanders went out, was real proud of the fact that her boss did it to end the Russian investigation. But he did this with the Senate investigation too. Well, there's a constitutional separation of powers, John.
There is. And
doesn't he know that?
No.
You know, you would think. And here's the crazier thing about it, and I don't mean to belabor the obvious, but he had gotten in a lot of trouble for what he did with Jim Comey, to the point where it had sparked a special prosecutor to look into it. One of the things he's looking into is obstruction of justice.
Right.
Which goes right to the issue of him trying to get Jim Comey down. So while the special prosecutor is engaged in his investigation, he's at the same time doing the same thing again, now on Capitol Hill.
And for children who are at home thinking, hey, one day I'd like to grow up and be a special prosecutor, what they look at is they look at evidence of patterns of obstruction, and it's not just, like, for instance, when Donald Trump got everybody together on Air Force One to lie about the Russian meeting, to say it was about adoptions.
Write up the letter himself.
A special prosecutor, Caddy, will look at that and say, okay, I'm looking at the intent. Why is the President of the United States putting out a statement that is a bald-faced lie to the New York Times? It's the same case here with the investigation in the Senate. You're doing it again. Any sane, rational human being with all their mental faculties would say, wait a second, I just got a special prosecutor for trying to kill this over here at the Justice Department. I better not do this to the United States Senate, but he did.
Because there's this consistent belief, I think, from Donald Trump that he can bend reality to his will. So I can make this what I want it to be. I can go to the Senate and I can make this go away. And even if that flies in the face of all logic and flies in the face of what's happened because I've just had a special prosecutor accounted, I'm going to try it again.
Well, and because, Mickey, he has people around him that actually justify him bending the truth and lying. When you have a spokesperson that says it doesn't matter if the fascist videos coming out of Britain are actually factual or not. The truth does not matter, which is, by the way, that's official policy now from the White House, from the spokesperson of the White House.
Yes, it is.
The truth does not matter. Said it themselves, in their own words, this week.
And wouldn't even comment
matter.
on the conspiracy theory that he tweeted, among many other lies and stupidities. I mean, the spokesperson has zero credibility.
She said he was elevating the conversation.
Yeah, by
elevating the issue.
By having...
But see, I actually think she's not a stupid person.
Okay, so
I think she actually might be a smart person, so therefore what she's doing is even more wrong. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and so Caddy also...
She knows what she's doing.
Just so we know about these videos again, and, you know, Piers Morgan, who is has been kinder to Donald Trump than most people.
Nigel Farage, the leader of UKIP, who's been consistently supported, again came out yesterday and said this is not okay.
And especially if you look, Piers Morgan is just, it's daily. Like, you don't understand what you are doing. You don't understand the impact this is having over here, Mr. President. Can you explain just how, like, these are neo-fascists that Donald Trump is embracing, right?
Yeah, they're way outside the norms of political spectrum. These are people who have been indicted on charges of hate crimes against Muslims, retweeting these videos which have been unsubstantiated and are deliberately fostering anti-Muslim feeling, has been condemned across the political spectrum in the UK, from the left and from the right. I mean, I have never in 20 years of covering American politics seen a British Prime Minister in public, on camera, deliberately criticize an American president in the way that Theresa May did.
Yeah.
Never happened.
Yeah, no,
And there is no
Party.
Well, there was one other time. There's one other time when Prime Minister in Love Actually had that remarkable speech. And he said, I fear that this relationship is a bad relationship.
This is a bad relationship.
A very,
relationship.
very
Could we get Hugh Grant?
bad
Can we have that clip
Should we just
going out?
have
Could
Hugh
you
Grant
guys
as our Prime
find that?
Minister?
Because that was quite a scene.
It's actually sick.
And the thing is it actually sets
Grant's
back
nuts.
all the good work that's been done on intelligence sharing that we actually really need, all of us, every single day to keep us safe. This does not help. You've got police forces in the UK saying this doesn't help us.
Maybe it helps
all this
Theresa
does
May.
is help the fascists and it helps the terrorists.
Right. Does this help
That's
Theresa
all.
May domestically to stand up to Trump? Because she's had
Well, she probably
such
should
a
have done
problem.
it beforehand. There's been some respect. I think the question is going to be whether the state visit is revoked.
Yeah.
So the big question now is, okay, you've criticised him, but you're still going to invite him for a state visit to the UK after he's done this.
Right.
And that's...
And what about the
state? That goes ahead.
As you saw that crowd for the Christmas tree lighting, that small one, that's not going to be like the
Empty
crowd of
seats.
protesters
Protest,
in
no.
London.
There will be walls
when Donald Trump
along
shows
the
up
wall,
in London.
so
That's going to be the
keep the
Million Man
protesters
March in London,
You know,
Trafalgar
Steve,
Square.
I'm all for carrying on the business of a country, and even after Tiananmen Square, I didn't love that Bush sent Scowcroft over to China, but I understood. But in this case, where Donald Trump is promoting fascists, neo-fascists in Great Britain, don't you think the British should cancel this or postpone this state visit and say, we're sorry, Mr. President, not now, and bluntly, not until you come out and criticize these neo-fascists?
I don't see how, from their own domestic standpoint, their own domestic politics and credibility, how they could possibly have Donald Trump for a state visit at this point. But, you know, there's a second visit that's sort of on the table, which is whether he goes for a more informal visit, because the U.S. Embassy is about to move across the river and open early next year, and he might go and do that. And obviously he can go if he wants to, but then I think you're in protest land and you're going to have enormous pushback from the British population over that.
Also, the aspect which we haven't touched on of the security of U.S. personnel overseas in embassies, because what we know is that when we have these incidents, they then become a target as well for people who are angry when there is a backlash and Americans are perceived as putting out this anti-Muslim rhetoric.
Not wanted. I bet there'll be a definite low turnout or not a good turnout. I would be very careful.
Yeah,
and I'm dead serious.
Bottom of the Daily Miller calls for Trump to be charged with race crime after vile tweets. President rose with PM after she blasts praise of hateful group, and
so
it'd be very interesting.
The Republican chairman of the Senate Intel Committee, back to
obstruction
first story.
justice.
Back to obstruction justice.
It's hard to keep track of the disgrace. Richard Burr told the New York Times, quote, "It was something along the lines of, I hope you can conclude this as quickly as possible." Burr said that he replied that it would end when the committee finished its interviews. Burr said he did not feel pressured by Trump's appeal, portraying it as the action of someone who has, quote, never been in government. Lawmakers and aides said Trump told Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell. Can
I stop there for a second?
Yeah, I mean.
So never been in government. I know Richard Burr, and Richard Burr, Heidi, I believe, I've called that my party a lot, but I believe he has been acting honorably in a bipartisan way with Mark Warner. He's been, I think, over this past year, one of the best of the Republicans actually keeping their head down and doing their work. But when he says it reminds me of somebody who'd not been in government before, that's the same way as saying, you know what, he's just ignorant.
But
he doesn't know what he's doing.
That was the same thing that we saw when the intel chiefs as well came before Congress, right? Was how, well, I didn't feel pressured, but these things happened. And what we're seeing here is a portrait of multiple pressure points now, because it wasn't even just the head of the intel committees. He got multiple members of that committee, other members of Congress, to then try and pressure Burr. And there was a pattern here. The words that were used, time to move on.
Right.
And so you see here a pattern where he's also cornering people on the plane. Blunt was cornered on the plane. And to me, one of the most telling parts of that article was also that in Mitch McConnell's words, you could see through these interactions that this president was not able to separate out the fact that Russia needed to be punished for this interference from the fact that his campaign was under investigation for collusion. He couldn't separate the two, and that's why you see this almost bitterness by this president every time the issue of Russia comes up, and that he had to even sign those sanctions into effect.
But John, he was yelling, wasn't there like a shouting match on the phone with McConnell?
Well, there was certainly that, but I just want to go back to your point about Burr. Put aside his excuse for why Trump did this.
That the president was ignorant.
Yeah, put aside. He's on the record in this story talking about the fact that this happened. The most extraordinary thing about this piece is the number of Republicans who are on the record with the New York Times going to saying the president was trying to shut down our inquiry.
No matter what they felt about the words, the president used the words, "Let's move this along," or whatever those words.
And they took it and they went on the record with the New York Times about it. That's the chairman of the Senate Intel Committee acknowledging it. He can characterize it or frame it however he wants. But he's on the record in the New York Times saying this. It's an amazing thing.
And so this is one of those moments where you have to stop and just put context to things, because Donald Trump has so lowered the bar on every level, whether you're talking about culturally, politically, but here legally. I can only use my experience as if I were being investigated by someone in the House Ethics Committee, never happened, but in the House Ethics Committee, and I said to my chief of staff, "Hey, you know what? I'm going to talk to so-and-so over on the House floor. Tell him to move the blood would have drained from his face. And he would have said, "You can't do that. That's obstruction of justice." Like, anybody on the Hill knows, you don't do that. That is grossly just not proper, improper.
But this is how Donald Trump has always rolled. He doesn't care what the rules are. He will push and pull and use every means, politically connected lawyers, whatever he needs to do to get done what he wants to get done. And he has not learned that when you come to Washington, there's a different set of rules. He thinks he's still back in New York, where you can kind of push and pull and elbow people and bully them and
call up the press pretending that you're someone else.
Call the press and pretending you're someone else, and all the rest of it.
And look, here's up on the full screen. These are the patterns. Reported Trump pressure to nix Russia probe. February 14th, Comey asked to let the Flynn investigation go. Flynn now obviously a main target. March 22nd, Trump asked Coates to pressure Comey. He was at DNI, of course. March 30th, Trump asked if Comey would lift the cloud. May 11th, Trump fired Comey and then, of course, bragged about firing Comey to the Russians. And then this summer, Trump asked senators to end the probe.